going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the Bearded Comic Bro, and I am joined by the Berkowitz Brothers. Welcome to the show.
Thank you
Hello,
so much.
hello.
I,
Got the
I,
Berkowitz Brothers.
I am so excited. We got Ben and Max. Welcome to the show. You guys are writing a new comic right now called The Writer, and I want to dig into all those things. But real quick, if people aren't familiar with you, how did you get into creating comics?
Yeah, which most people aren't familiar with us, which is fine.
They will be.
Yes.
They will be. There you go. Max always has the good zingers. He comes from the world of broadcast journalism, so he's much better on camera than I am.
No,
he's
but
also
Ben's
much
better on
funnier.
Zoom. He's much better on Zoom.
Good. Well, we're
Different
blending
world.
both worlds. We got
Yeah.
on camera and Zoom. This is all great.
Thank you, honey. So how did we get into comics? I mean, Max and I have always we've always loved comics, I think, from the womb. I think I got into it a little sooner. I was just a little older than Max, even though I look much younger.
No, he doesn't. Big lie.
And Max was really into sports, but for us the world's kind of meshed really well. They're all about like these mythical gods coming together, sports world, comic books. But like where we really got into it was at our Papa Nana's house when we were like I think like around 5. We would go over every Friday night, sit in front of the TV, sleep over, and we would draw comics while watching TV, and our papa would sit behind us and he would draw, and our nana would read a book or yell at our papa for talking too loudly. Max is shaking his head.
I don't know about that.
But no, we've always been into it. I have a comic book that I made in 1st grade that's terrible, but I need to find it somewhere on my shelf. But
You still have it though. You still have the original.
The original. It was like a weird, trippy X-Men whose house was our house growing up, and nothing made sense in the story. But similar to The Writer.
So good. And Max, did you gravitate towards the love of comics as much as Ben?
I did. I mean, it took me a minute, but I got all the hand-me-downs. So with clothing and then with comics, so I got in through my brother, and entertainment was our world.
Yep.
Not just comics, but movies, TV shows, sports. Like our entire family is just immersed in it. Like my dad, he knows every celebrity's birthday. It's weird.
That's
really creepy. He probably knows your birthday
an interesting fact.
Yeah. And then our mom loves every award show. So she'll like have like the dinner table set for everybody and like lobsters ready to watch like the Oscars, the Emmys. And
she's watched so much TV. She's gone through all of American, all of Danish, and almost all of British TV now. Yeah.
I just want to hang out with your family. That sounds fantastic. I want to go to these Oscar parties.
And she's just like, when are you guys going to win your Eisner? When are you going to win your Emmy? When are you going to win your Oscar? Come on.
Yeah.
Beat it up, guys.
Hey, but now at least she's aware of the Eisners, and then real soon we'll start to throw some Eisner parties, and it'll be great.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
So always having this love then for media, being consumed, growing up into this world. Where was it then that you wanted to kind of start to pursue a career of creating comics?
No, that's a really good question, because I kind of have always fallen in love with writing, and I fell into first theatrical film marketing and publicity. I worked at Sony and Magnolia Pictures, and I was into production. Max, like I mentioned, comes from the world of like broadcast journalism. But there was always this itch to make comics. Like I draw, my Instagram is Berk Sketches. I'm always putting out my sketches there. But yeah, comic books has always been something we wanted to do. We just, hadn't really, it was either the timing wasn't right or the story wasn't right. And, it's funny how these things come together. You come up with an idea, you work on it for years, and then you're on the phone one day and you just have a conversation. This idea pops up.
Well, I mean,
And
we're on the phone not just one day, every day for about like 12 hours a day. So
true. Yeah, I speak to Max more than my wife. But yeah, we had this like, idea, this spark, and we were like, we need to do this. So we immediately, like, that night, put together sort of our thoughts on an outline, a presentation, and that was kind of like the fire to this idea for the writer.
So the writer is correct me if I'm wrong, one of your first forays into comics then.
It is our first foray.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have this idea. We'll explain. Let's talk about the writer then. If people aren't familiar with it, haven't gotten to pick up issue 1, first off, what are you doing? It's out. You can go get it, go pick it up, and read it, and then come back and listen to the rest of this episode. But if someone hasn't gotten to hear it or read it yet, what's this idea of the writer about?
Yeah. So part of the conversation Max and I were having was we were really tired of seeing how Jewish identities in comics were kind of getting sidelined when they made the jump into TV or film. I made this example, and again, like I really enjoyed Moon Knight, the TV series, but in the comic books, his identity is very much tied to his father, who's a Holocaust survivor and a rabbi, but that's pretty much entirely removed in the TV series. And there are other, examples.
And we're always rooting for these characters that are supposed to be Jewish to be on screen, have their background be Jewish, like The Thing. And finally, The Thing, the actor is going to be Jewish. So we're excited.
Right, yeah. So we're excited about that. And so, we were like, okay, we're tired about this. There are a lot of amazing, Jewish storytellers out there who are making Jewish comics, but how can we come up with a story that kind of embodies everything we love from like the movies we grew up on, Indiana Jones, Ghostbusters, and combine that with, Jewish folklore and mythology, which a lot of people don't really know much about. And how do we make Josh Gad the main character and sort of make it sort of this like meta satire on celebrities putting themselves in comic books? So we came up with this idea called the writer, who's a comic book writer and college professor, and one day gets plunged into this insane journey of discovery, trying to figure out how he's connected to the Ring of Solomon and why there are neo-Nazis chasing after him, very much Indiana Jones-esque. Dybbuk's, yeah, we add in Dybbuk's, which a lot of people don't know are demons in Jewish mythology. And we tie into this great concept, with some golems. There have been stories where you write down the word for life on a piece of paper and you insert it into the mouth and it brings it to life, or you can write it on the forehead. We kind of took that concept, ran with it. So our main character's ability is to write down any superpower on a piece of paper, eat it, and temporarily gain that. So that's kind of like the gist. And this was a lot of fun and like a labor of love for us. We very much inserted like our own experience, our own family into the story.
A lot of Boston life in it. Like really, there's our family, and then you see like there's a Jewish deli that we do go to this Jewish deli at home all the time. You have Brookline High, which our mom went to high school there. Our mom is in this comic, and she really acts like our mom. She drinks about like 8 to 10 cups of coffee a day. And
I think
badass. Yeah.
I think also just like to add, like, one of the important things for this story for us, since we are new to comic books, we've grown up on them, but was to also have the story kind of feel like the writing process.
Yeah.
So I'm, not to give any spoilers, but like, I hope that, we're successful in that, and that comes across as you go from issue 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. Yeah.
So what there's so much I want to unpack here because we all just dropped a lot. But first off, so if I heard you correctly, the mom in the book is based off of your mom, and because she has one of my favorite lines in the whole comic in issue 1, where she's like, "The coffee's fine," and then drops just a little extra touch to it.
That is how she talks. That is definitely
that is Liz to a T. Except what do you have to say, that?
No, I was gonna say she is the female Larry David. That is our mother.
Yep. To a T, except she likes to make the point that she's much better looking than her version in the comic book. So just to make that clear to the world.
Yeah, this is like an 80-year-old version of her. She's like 15 to 20 years younger than this.
Yeah.
So she got a little beef with you all then. I'm like,
yeah,
writing me in a comic book and you aged me up a little bit here. I don't know about that.
She said, I'm not going to promote this because I don't look good in it.
No, moms are supposed to be the ones that you can rely on that are going to promote everything.
No, and especially Jewish mothers. You think they would be, but no.
You gotta drop. You say, listen, you want an Eisner party? You got to start to promote this.
Exactly.
So it's merging of two great loves, then, and it'll be great. So you brought a lot of life into the story that you resonated with, and things like that. Like, it almost sounds like I could take this comic and walk down the streets and be like, oh, there's a deli, there's this. Like, why was it so important to, as writers, to kind of write what you know and input so much of your family and stuff around into the book?
Yeah, I think whether or not it was like smart to put our all of ourselves, Josh, Max and I into this book, even Ariel himself put a lot of himself into this. Like, everyone I think that was involved was like so passionate about this story. And you can really see that in Ariel's work and Frank's lettering. We were just so lucky. But I think why we decided to write what we know, because it's we love Boston, we love superheroes, we love the people who created this industry. This whole book was very much like inspired by Jack Kirby, Siegel and Stan Lee. So that's of course that's why his name's Stan Siegel. So it was just like, it's what we knew, it's what we wanted to see on the page. So that's kind of why we wrote it.
And we also had to put sports in there because the only thing people talk about in Boston is sports. So we had to do it.
Man, any of my viewers that are not fans of Boston sports that are kind of just like, oh man, I don't know if I can support this comic now.
Well, I think they'll be happy actually once they get to issue 4.
Okay.
I think most non-Boston fans will be pretty psyched.
All right. Well, then no spoilers, but I can't wait then for issue 4 to just see what that is. But so let's talk about then the team, because you mentioned one of your ideas was to have the character kind of look like Josh Gad and be Josh Gad. And if you looked at the cover, you look at the comic, it looks like him. He's also one of your co-writers, co-creator. Like, so how did the team come about with this idea of like, because I feel like most times people aren't like, let's have this person like, hey, Josh, be a part of our comic.
No, exactly. And so like we wanted to come up with a character that, was, a lot of times when you think of like Jewish representation on screen, you think of like the Nevish, the Larry David. So we kind of wanted to, make a comment on that representation and also have a superhero that, doesn't look like, a Chris Hemsworth or a Thor, even though Josh is a beautiful man, just like Chris. Just have to put that out there, Josh.
I mean, I just don't want Josh coming getting mad saying that he's not as beautiful as Chris Hemsworth. Okay, I'm not gonna clip that at all.
And each issue, he looks a little bit different. You'll see the transformation. Yeah. So,
but Yeah, it was, I mean, it was important to have that sort of like representation. And, and also, we've been in love with Josh's work forever. He's brilliant. And so we kind of went out to him and his team. Were like, we have this idea. We want to work with you, write this with you. And, he kind of fell in love with the whole concept. And so,
Well, and we
yeah,
knew how important it was to him. I mean, some of his family survived the Holocaust,
yeah.
and he's very vocal about this. So it really, really meant a lot to him and gravitated towards him.
Yeah. And so, it seems like one of the big things for, in the process of writing this book and creating this book is that you wanted to have representation of, in the comic, and almost so much in a way that if it was ever adapted anyway, you can't take out any of the Jewish heritage and because it won't work if you like, what, we can kind of leave this aside in the comic, if, leave that in the comic and put this out. So it feels like representation, is very important to the basis of this story.
Yes.
No, I was
what
gonna
were
say
you
we
gonna say?
wanted to show how diverse the Jewish community is. I mean, you can see it with every family member, other people in different issues. You'll see that. Like, Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, no, like, we wanted to show that the Jewish experience isn't just sort of the Ashkenazi, it's the Sephardic, it's the Mizrahi.
Mizrahi, yeah.
So, and, there are Latin American Jews, Chinese Jews, and
Indian
so
Jews.
Indian Jews. I mean, we could go on. There's a whole beautiful spectrum that we wanted to, highlight in this book. Limited to four issues, but
22 pages each issue.
yeah. And so that was like, kind of an important factor for us.
So you got Josh on board with, then how was it getting Ariel to be a part of this too? Because I think like that was a key of the artwork of coming together, like to bring the story together.
It's a great process with Dark Horse. They bring you a bunch of different artists that you can choose from, but Ben always had this idea to bring on Ariel. He loves him, loves him, loves him. So he slid into his DMs.
Yep. I literally just messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, here is a sentence about our project. Can we have a meeting? And we had this Zoom meeting, and he kind of, fell in love with the concept. And I've been obsessed with Ariel's work forever, from his work on Marvel, and more recently Brutal Nature, which is just his artwork's just insane. So we wanted to bring that sort of like biblical, bigger than life sort of art that kind of like pops off the page, and Ariel just he gave into to us hustling him. So no, he was really great, and so are we.
So one of the things I did appreciate is, you mentioned it already in this interview. We see it in the first issue. That Stan's his superpower is that he writes down on the sacred text stuff and then he eats it, and then he gets those superpowers. So like, where was it like? Because like you can do anything with superpowers. Like, did you have a list of like these superpowers are off limits? These superpowers are ones that we really have to tackle into. Like, how do you kind of narrow it down? Because you said you got 4 issues, 22 pages an issue. How do you like get to do the ones you really want to highlight? And were there some that like, no, we definitely don't want to go this route?
Yeah, I mean, literally, he can tap into, and as a comic book writer, he can tap into anything, any superpower. But I think that's also one of the downsides is, when you're in a situation, you need to think on your feet and like, how quickly can you write? And you never know how long a power is going to last. So there's that kind of like timing element. But there were, and like everything's on the table. It's just, for me, there's like an anxiety. It's like, okay, if I use like a power to time travel, I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that's going to impact the world.
Yep. The
So
butterfly effect.
there are those kind of like anxieties that play into using this, tapping into this kind of power that we leaned into, and without making him too much of a Marty stew. But we also leaned into that a little bit as well.
Yeah. Did you? And so then you kind of had to come up with, seems like, with your own rules, right? Of how long can these powers last? Can they be utilized? Again, like I know one of the things, like I've had I forget which artist I had on me, was an artist for Green Lantern, was like, I never wanted to do the same construct. Once I used it, okay, he's got to come up with a different construct. Same kind of things. Like, is that kind of like, how was it to kind of figure out what rules you wanted to set for this kind of new superpower?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Man, you should see the database we kind of like built for like this, and like organize like superpowers, time limits, what can be used, when it can be used. We even like have a database for like the villains and like the demons and mythological creatures. We put like a lot of energy and thought into this. There's so much that we wanted to tap into that we didn't, but I think we kind of nail the powers that kind of like fit this story really well, because from the beginning we were told to bookend this, that this is just going to be a 4-issue miniseries. So but yeah, we went through all the machinations of figuring out what powers, how long they can last.
Well, because even growing up, I think every night we'd always like talk like, what kind of powers would you want if you had powers? And I want to ask you, what powers would you want if you had one power?
If I could have one. All right. Well, just be thinking, because I'm gonna flip it on you then as well. If I have the answer. If I could have one power, it would. Ooh, that's a. I should, what, for a comic nerd, I should have this like on lockdown,
right?
But I don't.
It's tough. See,
I don't.
Yeah. This is the
like,
issue.
and like this is where like in the writer I would just die, because I'm like, I don't know what power to do.
Or if you already used it,
Right. I think I would do not flight, but the power to kind of transport myself to any place in an instant.
I like that.
I don't mind traveling, but to be able to just like, you know what, I want to check out a comic shop in LA, cool. I can go there, be there, done, come back. Like, I'm using it for my own selfish gain right here. It's like, no, I want to go to a signing at this shop, and I don't want to have to drive 10 hours to get there. So
I love it.
So, well, what about y'all? Do you have some, or is that going to be spoilers?
No, for me,
okay.
I mean, I would love to shapeshift. Yeah,
interesting.
So maybe I could be the president of the United States one day.
Like the shapeshifter on the most recent season of The Boys.
Yes, I can just rip my skin off. Yeah.
Interesting, Max.
Okay. More morph action, like X-Men a little bit. Okay,
I could see that. All right. What powers would I have? I think one that I would have a lot of fun with is to be the genie that always gets you like the wrong wish.
Like I love screw with people.
I love trolling people and love screwing with Max, especially. So that's like the ultimate power.
That is the most oldest brother response around.
He's like, a rude man, very rude.
He's like, I'm gonna have a power that can negate your powers, basically, and mess with you just because I want to be that annoying older brother. I'm a younger brother, so I understand.
Younger brother.
You want to be beautiful forever? Sure, you'll be a mannequin. There you go. Oh,
man, that's some tricky stuff right there. I love it though. What's so great about this kind of story is, as much as like I'd love to see more of this world, there is a niceness to know like, hey, you are coming in with this 4-issue series. Like, here's your story. You're going to tell it. That it's a story that you ideally will want to tell, that we get to have closure with too. So did you find having the constraints of the 4 issues harder because you had to narrow it down, or more freeing because you had the constraints to say, no, we have to wrap it up in 4 issues?
I think I don't know. For me, I thought it was really helpful to know that we were going to end it. As much as I would love to continue this story. There's so many ways. Max and I have and Josh have already kind of outlined ways we could expand upon this. But I don't know. For me, it was definitely freeing that we could come up with a beginning, middle, and end.
What about you, Max?
I mean, the ending was definitely pretty tough. And it's a little sad too.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was a lot of sleepless nights for us, going back and forth on how we really wanted to end this, but we came up with a really, really good ending. So
Yeah.
either way, it would have been great. But
Yeah.
what didn't end, still exciting.
Well, I'm excited. I think this is something that people really should check out if they haven't. Just the whole nature of you integrating, Jewish culture into the book, but also integrating, being nerds of loving comics, of the whole aspect of having to have a writer, kind of think on their feet and come up with their own superpowers. It's a beautiful merging of, just a lot of great things in this fantastic storytelling. So I really do encourage people, if you haven't checked out The Writer, to do so, because it's so good. And that cover is fantastic.
Jeremy Hahn,
you guys
knocked it out of the park.
When I saw Jeremy was on, I was like, oh, he's so good.
Oh my God. We told him we wanted an homage to Kirby's Captain America, and boom.
That's brilliant. So, well, I want to respect your time a little bit as well. Same busy. So obviously The Writer, you got that coming up. Is there other things that you're kind of working on, or just other stuff that you wanted to promote or plug right now, or is it just The Writer, right?
I think right now we've got a lot of things cooking, including other comic books that are in development, which we're really excited about. But for now, we really want to focus on The Writer. We hope everyone gets a chance to read it, whether you love it, whether you hate it, just read it. It was a labor of love, and we're gonna be at Comic-Con. And we're excited.
And then issue 2 comes out in 2 days.
That's right. Yeah. At the time of recording, issue 2 comes out in 2 days. I'm so excited to check this out. I'm excited to hear that you're expanding now into the world of comics even more, in the future. That just makes me happy. That's not just kind of we did a comic, cool, it's done. Let's
right.
But before I let you go, I have to ask, because I've had multiple, co-creators on, co-writers on. How is it though being co-writers with each other, with family? Because I haven't had family members as co-writers before. How's that process going? And does Josh have to kind of play middleman between you two of hey, hold up.
I mean, for us, because we own our own business together, we're used to this. So the process was pretty smooth. I mean, you're going to have some days where you yell at each other.
Yeah, smooth for us.
Yeah, for us, yeah.
Yeah, to everyone else, it's like a battle. But
it's good to have that legendary brain that breaks it up for us, and Josh Gad.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So while we're screaming at each other, Josh kind of brings that calm, soothing brilliance.
The Disney legend brilliance.
Disney legend.
Spaceballs 2.
I love it.
But I mean, it's been the best experience of my life, and I'll speak for Max, of his life as well. He's shaking his head now. But no.
That's fantastic. Well, where can people follow along with you, stay up to date? So when you do have announcements, of stuff coming out, where can people follow along with you?
Amazing. Check us out on Instagram at The Writer Comic, and Berkowitz Bros as well on Instagram. And you can follow Max and I on Twitter. I'm Ben H. Berkowitz, and Max is
Max Berkowitz 1.
Max Berkowitz 1. I think he forgot his handle. But no, you can follow all of us as well as Josh, Josh Gad on Instagram. He's always he's amazingly supportive and pumping it out on his channels as well. So yeah, feel free
Don't
to
follow
check
me
it
on TikTok.
But you know, now people are going to want to follow you because, like, why did he say not follow? Wait a second, what's up? That's a sign that it's going to happen.
Exactly.
So, well, thank you both. If you're listening to this or watching the podcast, I'll have the, you know, everything we talked about, all the links in the description of this video. Like we said, issue 2 of The Rider comes out on July 24th. Like, go get it. Go get issue 1 if you haven't. It's 4 issues. A nice tight story. You're gonna love it. And with that being said, hopefully you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.